Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about Power Query Editor available in Power BI. So with Power Query Editor, we can transform the data after connecting from different sources. So we can transform, reshape, format, and do many things in Power Query Editor. So we'll first see what's Power Query Editor. Power Query Editor in Power BI enables users to connect, transform, and prepare data from multiple sources before loading to the data model. It offers a user-friendly interface for data transformation with support for M language or advanced tasks, which is it's a tool within Power BI that allows users to connect, transform, and prepare data from various sources before it is loaded to the actual data model for analysis. It provides a user-friendly interface for performing a wide range of data transformation tasks without needing to write code. Although it supports the use of M language for more advanced transformations, one need not know the kind of coding of M language, but one can perform those activities by drag and drop and the available features in Power Query Editor. So let's now see what are the features available in Power Query Editor. So the first feature is data connection. Like we discussed, we can connect the data from various sources, even from Power Query Editor directly or Power BI report view itself. So it allows the users to connect from various data sources such as databases, online services, flat files, Excel files, and web APIs and other structured data. The second feature is data transformation. So the users can perform transformations like filtering rows, adding columns, merging tables, pivoting, unpivoting, and aggregating data, and so on. These transformations are recorded as steps which can be reviewed and modified at any time. Third feature is data shaping. It enables shaping the data to fit the needs of the analysis, such as changing the data types, splitting the columns, or renaming the fields, etc. Fourth one is data preparation. Transformations applied in Power Query Editor are saved as a series of steps that can be refreshed automatically whenever the data is updated, ensuring that the data is always up to date. Fifth one is combining data. Power Query Editor can combine data from multiple sources into a single cohesive data set, facilitating comprehensive analysis, which means we can combine multiple tables into one and do the analysis on that single table rather than doing it multiple times. The last feature is error handling. So it provides tools for handling errors and issues in the data, such as replacing error values, handling nulls, or removing duplicates, and so on. So there's not much on the PowerPoint presentation side because we will discuss all the features, scope, and everything in the practical session, which is in Power Query Editor itself. So let's jump into Power Query Editor now. This is the Power BI desktop. I've cut it open, and now let's connect the data source, which I saved onto my desktop, which is Sample Superstore. So to demonstrate this Power Query Editor features and functions, I'm going to demonstrate through the Sample Superstore dataset, which is in Excel format. So while it's loading, so I'll check on the Orders tab, which has the actual fact data, and jump into transform data, which takes me to the Power Query Editor. As we can see here, we got the table loaded into this Power Query Editor for us to transform, reshape, or do the formatting changes and so on. So we see here there are a lot of menu options and features available in each of the menu item, like transform, add column view, tools, help, and so on. So I'll try to discuss each and every option available in this ribbon by performing those activities and see how it works in reality. So the first one is close and apply. So this button we use at the end once we are happy and once we are formatted, transformed all the steps. And before we load it to the Power Query, Power BI report, we use this button. So let's come back to this in the later stage. Let's see the second option, which is new source. As we discussed in the PowerPoint presentation, so we can add and take or get the new data directly in the Power Query editor itself. So these are the different data sources available. So we can connect to SQL Server, Analysis Server, text and CSVs and web APIs, OData, blank query, and more. So when we hit the more, we get all the options as we see in the Power BI report itself. So that's about the news, adding the new data source. So recent sources will show us all the sources which we have added recently. The third option being enter data, so which is a kind of adding a subtable or a secondary table to our data set for further analysis. We can expand this table by adding columns like this, and we can add also the rows as the need be. Um, the other thing we can also do by adding the rows directly from Excel and copy and pasting from the Excel. Um, so we'll try to build a small table like location, product, and the sales value, something like that, simple one. So location, USA, product is electronics. So say sales for 50Ks. Australia, home appliances, like 20Ks. And we can add further rows. So it's just for example. So I'm not adding much. And we can also name this table as business, something like that. So let's say okay. When we say okay, this table is going to add to my query list as a secondary table. So we can do further analysis. But now I'm going to delete this as we are focusing on the main orders table. So that's about the entering data. So the next option is data source settings. So here we see the path from where the data source is fetched. So we can change the source if at all we move this file to some other location, and we can also connect to uh, we can also connect to the new data source by changing the source here. The next So in this video, we'll discuss the query parameters available in Power BI. So the query parameters are used to dynamically filter the data at the query level within Power BI desktop. They are often used to modify or filter the data that is loaded into the model, which means if there is huge amount of data which is drawn from the server, and only the relevant data is sent to the kind of department heads. For example, there are 5 departments in a business, so and the data is about 10 million rows. So only the 2 million rows are on an average. So only the average 2 million rows goes to the respective department head and not the entire 2 million. So this will help the query performance of the Power BI model as a whole. So we will better understand through an example. So to demonstrate this example, I'm going to use the sample superstore data, which I've saved on my desktop. So let me bring the data. So I'm going to use the orders table, and I'll go to transform window directly to demonstrate this example. So of course, the sample superstore data is not that large. It's just about 10,000 rows. So we can extrapolate the kind of numbers and try to understand the uh, use of the query parameter. So let's see what all segments we have. So I think we have consumer, corporate, and home office. So let's stick on to this column, and I will try to demonstrate this example. So first step is select a column which you think is making sense in terms of segregating the data. So in this example, there are three segments, three segments available: the consumer, the corporate, and the home office. So first step is right click onto the header and add as a new query. So this will create a new query as a list. From this list, obviously, first steps is like we need to remove the duplicates. So we will left with three rows, which is consumer, corporate, and home office. So the next step would be go to the main table, and you'll find the manage parameters icon in the home ribbon. So you select the new parameter. You can name the parameter as a segment in this case. Segment. The type can be any. Okay, so it's not accepting the segment name. Segment, let's say segment one. Okay. Uh, so it can be the text, or it's not mandatory to give any data type there. So this one is important. So since we have made a query, so let's choose a query and give a segment. The current value should be one among the three, like we have seen as one as corporate. So let's give as corporate and say it's okay. So say okay to it. Okay, so we have created the parameter, and the third step before we go to the report view, we'll have to select, or we have to filter the segment to one among the three, right? So so here we will use a filter which is equal to select the parameter and select the segment one. So I think yeah, segment one. So in this way, you are limiting, or kind of you are limiting, or you are filtering the data within the query itself before going to the model. So as we have selected the corporate, so corporate data is selected. So no other data will be visible at this point. So now let's save and close, or close and apply to go to the report view. So it'll take a while just to get loaded with the data and the parameters what we have created just before. So for this, to demonstrate this example, I'm going to show um, some kind of a table, right? So let's take a table example. I will put the years, basically the years on the columns, and say let's say table sales. Okay, so we got 706K of sales for all the 4 years for the corporate. Okay, so to change the parameter, we need to go to the transform window, and under edit parameters, so we can drop down and select the required parameter and create view. So I'm selecting the consumer now. If once I say okay and say apply changes, hit apply changes. So this has changed to 1.16 million. Okay, so now this data belongs to the consumer segment actually. So this is the usage of the query parameters available in Power BI. So this will help to reduce the data when we are when we are sending to the end users. Um, so yeah, so we can further select the last type, which is home office, and see if it changes. So one thing is every time when we change the parameter selections, every time we have applied changes to the query, so it loads the selected parameter value. So here now we see the 429 case of sales for the home office segment. Thanks for watching. One is manage parameters. The next one is preview, refresh preview. So we can do a refresh preview and refresh all. So when we say refresh all the tables, all the multiple tables get refreshed at once, and it's a kind of a preview option available for refresh. So the next option is properties. So what happens here in properties is basically we have two checkboxes here: enable load and load to report, and include the report in refresh. So let me walk you through these two options. What happens if you're not checking either of them or both of them? So let's do one. Okay, so let's uncheck the enable load to report and say okay. So now what I'm going to do to show you an example. So let's say let's choose columns. Okay, let me select only the ship date and sales, for example. Okay, and when I say okay, and when I say close and apply, so which means I'm saving this report with just with these two columns and saying okay. So nothing comes up here. Okay, nothing comes up here because I have not enabled the load to come in Power BI report view. So it's just gone. So that means uh, the the function which has taken place, right, by unchecking the option has not given any table to the report. So if I check this back, the report will load as is. I'm going to explain about the include in report refresh. So what this feature is, when we say this, it will load as is. So whenever the new data is flowed in to this Power Query editor, it goes and it performs all these steps and it loads into the window. If we are unchecking that, if we say uncheck and say okay, the new data will not flow in through these steps and it will not follow the transformation steps. Okay, so it's just ignored. So it's kind of so these options we use in terms of validating the data. So we don't want any new data to flow into this Power Query editor and disturb the data. So and only in those cases we may use this we may uncheck this option. But most of the times it should be checked because we want newest data or refresh data to flow in as an update. So that's about the options. Now let's look at this advanced editor. So it gives the kind of M language code itself. So which we discussed in the PowerPoint presentation. One need not know the kind of coding at this level, but one can perform a kind of tweakings of data or data types in here, and if they are interested. So let's do an example like let's see this order date type. The system or the Poker editor has detected as date type. So let's try to change as text and see what happens. And when we say done, so the order date has changed to a text format. So we can see now here as ABC rather than the date icon or the date data type, right? So this has changed. Um, so yeah, so as we have edited the in the advanced editor table uh, pop-up box, it has changed to the text format. So we can sorry, this is order date. Order date. We can go back and write a date, or we can perform we can cross this step which is just performed as going back. So one more important thing, there is no undo activity or undo option available in this Power Query editor. All we can do is cross these steps if you want to go back and kind of go to the original state of the report. So yeah, so that's the kind of a undo option available. So just we cross the button or step, so it's just gone back to the original state of uh, ABC. Yeah, so we will see further analysis of identifying the data types for all the fields in the coming steps. So the next one is manage. Okay, so this manage helps us. Um, okay, let me perform some activities before I go to this step, right? So uh, okay, let me split this one. I'll walk you through again these steps, but just for this example, I want to show you as to what happens, how to use this manage options. Okay, so we have performed at least two or three steps in the transformation window. Now we will see what this manage options has got for us. First thing is delete. As we know, we can if we delete this data set is deleted. The second option is duplicate. Okay, so we'll hit duplicate and see what will happen. Okay, duplicate options gives us exactly the same as the original table with all the steps which are which have taken place till now, right? Whenever you hit the duplicate, it'll give the same table with all the steps performed so far. Okay, so that's a duplicate, as good as duplicate. Next one is reference. Okay, this one is interesting. So when we hit this, okay, so it will also perform the same as duplicate, but the steps will not be shown. Okay, the steps is the in the applied steps is it's going to show as good as a new data source has just loaded in, right? So we cannot see the previous steps like we see in the duplicates. So here in duplicates, we create a duplicate copy in such cases when we want to perform some small validations and small testings. We take the exact copy and do some performance and uh, uh, delete these steps and see what happens, something like that. But in here, in the reference, when we hit the reference option, we cannot see the prior steps which were performed already. So that's the kind of a difference between duplicate and reference. Okay, now we don't want these two tables anyway, so let's delete and go back to our orders table. Okay, so okay, this one is a bit of interesting option, choose columns. Okay, choose column. What happens is we will, whenever we load the data, it comes with a uh, very large number of columns, right? So uh, what I've seen in my practical experience is like not all the columns are required to create each and every report. Some reports may require just 5 columns of these, like 15 odd columns, or some other reports need only 10 columns, or very few reports may need all the 15 columns put together. So in that cases, so we can uncheck whichever column is not required for the analysis of the data, right? So, for example, we may not need a ship date or ship mode or kind of age of the customer or state or postal code. So we may country. So we can uncheck these columns which are not required for that particular report and say okay, and it's removed or it's deleted. Okay, so that's the usefulness of these columns. So we have a small drop down available in here. uh, Say go to column. Yeah, go to column. It's like if there are multiple columns, let's say for example more than 30, 40 columns in this Power Query editor, we cannot find the kind of column we want to go and do some analysis. In that cases, we use this column and sort this by name, and this will help us in sorting the names as a alphabetical order, and then we can choose the column and say kind of say go to that particular column. Say for example profit. If I want to go to profit, it will take me to the profit directly, so without kind of searching in the table, right? So from left to right and right to left. So that's a kind of a small option is given with this choose columns option. um, Next one is so next one is remove columns. So it is kind of similar to choose columns, but preference, you better prefer this option to this one, because unfortunately sometimes we may delete the columns which the Power Query is highlighted on. For example, this discount, if we hit just delete, so this column is gone. So we don't want that, right? So we want to be careful. So use this option compared to this one. So we have similar options of remove columns, remove other columns. So remove other columns will delete all the columns other than the selected ones. So if I select these 3 columns, for example, these three or 4 columns, and let's say remove other columns, all the other columns are removed. So yeah, we may need in certain times to remove all the other columns except very few columns we want to select. So in that cases, we use this option. So I'm going back to the original state. So I change data types, I split, even split, I'm going back because I want to see the entire as good as original data. Okay, so the next option is keep rows. Okay, what it does is like if you want to kind of a test or validate some data from the data source, we may keep top rows. So we can give the number like 20 rows and say, okay, so only the 20 rows are kept and all other rows are kind of removed or deleted. And we have option bottom rows. We can do the same thing. Range of rows. For example, we want something like from 101 till 200, something like that. Okay, so when we say this, it'll just keep those rows in between and remove all other rows. So yeah, that's the option available. Next one is keep duplicates, keep errors. Okay, so it's kind of having duplicates in our data set and keep errors in the data set, which we'll see further. The next one is again the remove rows. This one is keep rows and remove rows, exactly opposite to what we just discussed with keep rows. So it removes top rows, it removes bottom rows, it removes alternate rows, it removes duplicates. So this one is the must and should step I think everyone uses, because we want to get rid of all the duplicates and eliminate all the duplicates to have the source of truth of data. So we often use this one. We often use this one. This one removes all the blank rows. If at all the rows have any blank rows, we don't want that. And remove errors. Obviously, if it is erroring out, we will remove those rows. The next one is sorting. So now we see the row ID. It is even in the first row, it is showing some 646 and 900, some random numbers or random order is kind of going through, right? We can sort the order based on certain columns selection, right? So we'll see what happens when we hit the sort A to Z in here. So it has sorted, right? So it is sorted from one, two, three, four, and the ascending order.